Welcome. This is Michael with Love and Freedom. Today, I'm back to talk to you about the restriction on crossing the international border of Mexico and Canada. This is the U.S. land border restrictions, not your flight when you're taking international flights into Mexico or Canada. These are the land border restrictions, and they have extended those restrictions once again. Originally was supposed to been released. Uh, they were supposed to release the restrictions again January the 21st. And once again, they extended again until February the 21st. So don't be surprised if they continue to extend this thing due to the pandemic. Um, they're changing it every day as they look at the numbers to see how, the rising of the cases have risen, and they're making the necessary adjustments on the restriction. Um, the land border, read here that the land border restriction uh, introduced on March 21st of last year, 2020, due to the C-19, the pandemic, has extended, and they extended it each month since then. And they, once again, as I just said, they extended it once again. It said that the land borders between the United States and Mexico will now remain restricted once again to essential travel crossing only until at least February 21st, 2021. Air traveling between the United States and Mexico remains unrestricted. Once again, it's saying air traveling between United States and Mexico remains unrestricted. News to the extension for another month was confirmed by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Now, this is what it's saying. They define an essential crossing as. As I go down the list, this is how they categorize essential traveling. And this essential traveling is permitting crossing from United States into from Mexico to the United States, and it's defined as following: U.S. citizens and lawful permanent resident returning to the United States. Listen again. U.S. citizens and lawful permanent resident returning to the United States are considered essential traveling. They cannot stop you from re-entering into the United States. So once again, I'm gonna reiterate that, and I keep telling you, reiterate that. Keep telling people they cannot stop you from coming into the United States if you are a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident returning back to the United States, no matter what your business of traveling into Mexico is. Also, the state individual traveling for medical purposes, i.e., such as receiving medical treatments in the United States. So if you're in Mexico, you travel to Mexico and you're going back into the United States, they ask you what your reason for going, where you going. I'm coming back here in the United States. Once again, you're a citizen or a permanent resident. You're just notified that you're coming back. You have a doctor appointment, whatever it may be. They can't deny it. Also, individual traveling to attend educational institutes. You're taking a class or something that matter. You're going to pick up something from a school or university, whatever it may be. But just keep in mind, remember, they cannot stop a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident from returning back into the United States. That is considered essential travel. Once again, whatever you're conducting your business, if you're just going to make a Walmart run, or you're going to the store to buy a pack of cigarettes or buy a beer, whatever you may be doing, they cannot stop you as a U.S. citizen and permanent resident from entering back into the United States. List goes on. Individual traveling to work in the United States, i.e., individual working in farming or agricultural industry, who must travel between the United States and Mexico in furtherance of such work. So field workers, they're permitting them to go into the field to work. Individual traveling for emergency reasons, public health purpose, i.e., government official, emergency responding to the United States to support federal or state, local, tribal, or territorial government efforts to respond to the C-19 or other emergencies. Individual engaging in lawful crossing border trade, such as your truck driver, supporting the movement of cargo between the United States and Mexico. Individual engaging in official government traveling, diplomatic traveling. Members of the United States Armed Forces and the spouse and their child are a member of the U.S. Armed Forces returning to the United States. An individual engaging in any military-related travel or operation. Those are some of the lists that define essential traveling. And what crossing is considered non-essential traveling which is what are prohibited now. And the list goes on, such as individual traveling for tourism purposes, such as you going to sightsee, recreational, you're going to casino to gamble, attending cultural events. They saying cultural events, whether you, I guess this is looking at where they have a big spiritual gathering every year or whatever, and it's just like some kind of event. You're just going to go and join the event. That's a big no-no. It had also, it goes on and said, it has also stated that shopping trips and routine family visits are prohibited. So once again, as I said earlier, they can't stop U.S. citizen or permanent resident for going over to shop or pick up things, allowing them from going into the United States. They may give you a hassle, they may hassle you or question you or try to make it uncomfortable for you, but you can still proceed into the United States as a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. And when it goes on, Mexicans and other foreign nationals with U.S. tourist visas are not permitted to enter the United States by land. Once again, it has been stated, Mexicans and other foreign nationals with U.S. tourist visas are not permitted to enter the United States by land, rail, sea, ferries, unless they are proved that they can provide that their trips falls under the definition of essential travel as described above, as I mentioned earlier. So this is by land, train, sea ferries, or any of these other things that I mentioned are prohibited unless you can provide proof that you're traveling for such, i.e., medical, schooling, or any other the things that I mentioned earlier that is considered essential. Flights are not affected, as once I stated and reiterated earlier. Flights are not affected. According to the official notice, that the land boarding restrictions do not affect flights to and from Mexico at this time, and do not affect it. But you should check with your airline, as they said, to make sure that the airline traveling don't have restrictions or testing may be the airline might require testing or whatever. But Mexico do not require testing to come into the country. Once again, Mexico is not requiring testing. Requiring a negative testing to come into Mexico, or you have to show that you have had a testing, or in that matter, to come into Mexico. So once again, check with your airline. It depends on the airline. They might require you to have a testing done before you get on the plane or exit the plane into the country or whatever. But then Mexico themselves or the United States are not requiring a testing. Now they said rail and sea traveling. Freight rail and sea travel is not affected, but passenger rail and sea ferries between Mexico and the U.S. are affected by these restrictions. Once again, freight rail and sea traveling is affected by these restrictions. Now, U.S. and Canada citizens returning home. U.S. citizen and lawful permanent resident of U.S. returning home to the United States are not affected by the restriction according to Canada. Canada citizens who wish to drive home are probably able to cross into the U.S. from onward passaging to Canada, but they recommend that you contact the Canadian or the U.S. consul for advice. So check with them if you're traveling back and forth into Canada. Now, if you we'll listen up another thing they stipulate. They have iterated or stipulated that if you have a foreign plate, if you are a foreign plate on your vehicle in Mexico, if you're driving to Mexico or currently in Mexico with a foreign plated vehicle with a temporary import permit, they said, this is something that was issued to you by what they call Banjercito. This is an agency that helped you got your permit. If you're traveling south of the border of Mexico and you needed a permit for traveling, you have a foreign plate. This falls under your rules that the agency admitted the permit to. It's not given, and they are not giving any extensions to the temporary import permit due to the C-19. If you fail to drive your vehicle out of Mexico before the TIP expires, the vehicle will become illegal in Mexico. Once again, they're saying the vehicle will become illegal in Mexico, and this could affect the validation of your auto insurance because you let your permit expires, and you will lose your deposit. They say it again, once again, you will lose your deposit because you pay a deposit to get a permit to drive south of the border into Mexico. So if that permit expires while you're into Mexico or out of the country and then you haven't renewed it, it can affect your insurance coverage and you will lose your deposit. So make sure you check on that if you plan on traveling and you got an extension. Or they are not offering on an extension as I was, and it expires, you will lose your deposit. So make sure you get back and get your deposit before that expires. And now, it said traveling to Mexico from the United States. Mexico has not imposed any legal restriction on passengers or vehicles entering Mexico by land from the United States. They said that that we are, hear that American citizens are driving, and while they hear, citizens are walking and driving into Mexico without any hindrance, which I'm a prime example. I'll be the first to tell you at this border crossing, San Luis, the frontera of San Luis, Arizona, and San Luis, Mexico, there are no hindrance. There are no problems at whatsoever. As long as you have your proper documents, say proof of residence, you have no problem entering, coming back and forth into Mexico, back into the United States. There is no checkpoint into Mexico for your papers or your visa or passport to come into Mexico. When you go back across the border in the United States, you have to prove your citizenship or proper documents to enter back into the United States, of course. So right now, there's no hindering you to coming back and back and forth from the United States into Mexico and Mexico side. So just be aware of that. I know that's good news to a lot of people that was concerned about coming into Mexico or whatsoever. So you would not have any issue right now at this point coming back and forth to Mexico. And once again, they have extended that restriction for visa traveling back and forth across the border of the United States. And Canada seemed to be a little bit lenient, but Mexico's are still implementing stipulated because it's such a border town where they do a lot of agricultural work as well. So those are the new rules, which the rules have not changed. Those are the new restriction expiration date. Well, the expiration, I should put it, have been extended to February 21st. Like I said, don't be surprised that they extend it once again, which they have been doing it. And as they update information and put it out there and I obtain it, I will bring it to you guys. Until the next one, bye now. Peace. One love. Stay safe.